Victor 92 is in orbit. Let's make the intercept. Ooh, inertial confinement, Terra fusion 2. Number 3 is the one we really want. So let's see if we've unlocked it. We probably won't for a little while. I don't want the Firefly torch. A lot of really cool stuff here, but I don't really need any of it right now. I'm wondering... These 4 hardpoint weapons are interesting. I might pick up advanced light coil guns though. There are so many weapons that I want to pick up, and the coils are one of them. You could go plasma, but we're not going plasma at the moment, we're going coils. So I'm going to pick them up next. Antimatter will be done on the 21st of September. And this time I think we're just going to go head on. Priority target, Corvette Swift Retribution. Let's just not burn the PD boat and ahead. Run the clock. I don't fear the head-on pass, primarily because he should be dead before we make the pass. Mag rails firing. And we should be able to intercept all of the missiles and mags that are incoming. Love it. Love it. Mags do the killing, PD keep me alive. Life is good. Chalk up another one. Now, the aliens won't be dumb enough to keep doing that. They will essentially send the other fleet back shortly. But for the moment, we're just thinning the herd. 2.8 exotics indeed. HF02, if you would be so kind enough as to return to my control, I will shortly send you back to your base. There you are. If you would be kind enough to fly back to Space Adelaide, reload and refuel with another 200 bloody water, if you would be so kind. Now, here's a weird thing. We're going to federate with Australia, obviously, but the weird thing is, because we now both have claims on Canada, we could also federate the UK with the United States. We can't unify them with the United States, so we'll federate with Australia, but yeah, that's interesting. So unfortunately, Federation Day is not on Federation Day, unfortunately, but 27 September 2038 is the new Federation Day for the Federation of the United Kingdom, which just contains the UK, which also owns South Africa and New Zealand, and Australia as well. The unification countdown on that should be Australia 27 September 2038. Okay, so later this year we can unify Australia into the UK. Makes sense. We've got unrest in the UK falling. The next step to fix is going to be after it finishes its final set of space defences. It built one in Joburg. The next one is going to defend New Zealand, and then it can switch to welfare and economy to fix this problem. But for the moment, not dying to space attack is probably a higher priority than, I don't know, increasing NHS funding in South Africa. But we will get to it. Add to that upgraded Marines. I did fail my Marine attack against the Servant space station and had to come back to Earth to reload, which will take a bit. You can see HF1 is still in flight. This will give us access to advanced Marine assault units, which are a considerable upgrade. So we will go with that in the future. What I want now is cyborging. This gives us the 3rd level of upgrades for our counselors. Some serious Borg stuff going on, so we're going to pick that up. That'll be done on the 4th of April. And then probably the big reactor. By which I mean the terawatt fusion reactor inertial confinement version level 3. Because that's going to get us very close to the engine, which is an upgrade over even what we are currently using. As a side note, one thing to like about asteroids plus having better engines is that you can actually build ships on the surface and have enough energy to take off. So we'll launch this thing. I believe it is the... What is that? Is that the Botany? Yeah, this is the Botany class colony ship. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly this thing to Jupiter to meet up with the other fleet that we have coming in. We were flying them to Callisto, I believe. A transfer time of 8.7 weeks seems entirely reasonable. That'll get us there with 300 kps to spare. It's not worth burning all the rest of the fuel, just in case we need to get somewhere else, just to save a couple of weeks. So we'll enable that transfer. That'll be a pretty direct transfer window. This will be the Botany Bay. And it's going to be the colony ship that helps us colonize Jupiter. It's only going to be able to build a orbital platform to start with. It's also got a module to place a service module on it, but we need to get a science ship out there in order to scan the areas in order to allow us to do that. We're building a science ship also on 187 Lamberta. The reason I picked this asteroid, by the way, is that if we zoom out, you'll see in terms of position, it's trailing Jupiter. This should enable a pretty good orbital transfer window if we time it properly, although in this case, we're pretty much doing a torch ship burn pretty much directly to target. All right, let's reward our amazing long-serving counselors. Ooh, elite marine units. I think I'll pick that up too, thank you very much. Level 3 Marines. We use lessons learned in space warfare to develop elite teams trained for small unit combat in space. I like it. Better Marines means more efficiency of individual Marine transports, which is something I can approve of. And yes, my space resource situation is getting pretty dire, but I also don't want to have to turn off my nanofactories. What I really hope is that my buildings finish soon so they start producing money rather than just decreasing construction time. In any case, Max is taking a shot at someone, and I was about to go upgrade my counselors, so let us do that. The next generation of augments includes some weird ones that we won't use. 4-Brain Stimulator, for example, gives +3 loyalty but -2 command and science. I don't think it's very good. Stealth Field, however, is just more espionage. Executive AI, more administration. This might run our cash down, so I've got to be careful with this a little bit. We will take the science point. We will almost certainly take the command point. The Guardian Angel is security. I'm going to need to trade for some more money. Investigation is not a priority for him, so we won't do that straight away. What we will do is upgrade the ones who need more command immediately, or more espionage, or more investigation. So where's the investigation? Or the espionage. There's the stealth field for espionage. We want that. That's enough for the moment. Once we have more money, we can expand these. We want command, a strategic AI, and that's probably enough for the moment, just while we need to save on money. Espionage here. So let's get the stealth field, and let's get the strategic AI for the command point limit. And Max gets a stealth field. Max gets a strategic AI. That seems like something Max would benefit from. And the rest, we're now down to our limits on cash, so we have to deal with what we've got, because I don't think anyone has enough money to sell us any. Everyone's pretty broke at this point, and I don't want to tip over to running spoils in any of my beautiful countries. So I'm pretty sure that this thing that we are attacking now is carrying a replacement alien agent, which we have also identified, are tracking, and which I think Max will terminate with great prejudice relatively shortly. But for now, let's kill this thing, which possibly carries the replacement. We'll run the battle quickly. We will eventually start to auto-resolve these, but due to our firepower advantage here, we've got 4 ships on 1. I'm just going to take it head-on. People were asking the controls. Okay, so Q switches it so you're changing the attitude of a point. Z just lets you change the rotation of a point. C lets you roll the ship. And E affects whether you're thrusting more or less at the point. So you can do a lot of control with just a click and drag. But if you want fine control on any of those axes, those keys give you the controls. We'll just priority target. We'll go head on. Shouldn't be a problem. The Corvette is not the most heavily armed of the various alien vessels, and we have a lot of PD to show for our troubles. What we will do is just nose up in case anything gets through, but I doubt anything's going to get through the PD. And hopefully we get into phaser range shortly. They're launching their missiles. We're firing rails. They're dodging the rails, or a lot of the rails, but the phasers are engaging. Point defense is able to do its job. I know it's very scary on sped up when you see, oh no, the point defense can't possibly keep up. It can. I've just sped up time a lot. So, that's another ship downed, hopefully a Hydra agent that will never make it to Earth, although I don't know whether that ship was carrying an agent for sure. We'll send the battle fleet back to station quickly, 2.6 exotics. BF Terra will redeploy in just a couple of hours back to base, get some fuel, and then I think the mothership is going to be on its way soon. Has it started burning for Earth yet? No. Victor 126 is on its way. Arrival low Earth orbit 9 June. That's a destroyer. That looks like a surveillance destroyer, so I don't think it's going to have a particularly good time when it arrives. What they really need to do is send their battle fleet back, which should be finished refueling. It should be finished refueling any day now, and then we'll see where it travels. And that's a weird piece of technology, but one that will come in handy. We need to increase our CP cap quite significantly just to handle the integration of the European Union. Because we can't invade the EU with Eurasia or vice versa and get all of the elements, we can't. They don't have enough mutually supporting claims. We're going to need to diplomatically unify them. That means having enough CP cap to hold the EU. So this 15 is going to help. I have no clue what... We're way past the point of the game I've ever played to before, so I have no clue what ferrocide emitter does. But we're going to research it anyway, because we can discover together. I'm sorry, Resistance. I'll make it up to you with some resources just so your agents don't bother me, but at the end of the day, I need your Canada. Specifically, I need Canadian MC, and I have the temporary window of control point allowance in order to merge it. Now, the real question is, who do I merge it into, the United Kingdom or the United States? So is Canada's destiny to be part of a united North America, ranging from Panama all the way to the northern tip of Canada? Or is its destiny to be part of some super European Union that includes a restored, like semi-restored British Empire as well? That's the question. I think mechanically speaking, adding it to the United States makes more sense. It can be done quickly, cleanly, and unlike adding it to the UK, it won't cause the UK to gain an additional control node, which will make absorbing the EU harder. So for reasons of both a plurality of comments from Americans saying that they would like Canada to be part of their country, and also just in-game requirements, I think Canada is going into the United States. But either way, that's 13 additional mission control points that we really appreciate. Welcome to the fold, Canada. And I'm going to feel better about taking Mexico because the initiative in control of Europe has now seized Mexico, which just brings home the fact that I need to grab a few more control point cap techs and then absorb the European Union, or start the process of absorbing the European Union, because what's happening is the corpos, the initiative, are using the massive European military that's been built up. I think it's something like 5 or 6 armies at Military Tech 4.7. They're using that in order to impose their will across the world, and considering we're basically at war with the initiative, that's not a good thing. So, a regime change in Mexico and the European Union is coming up soon. The space game is now more important, but consolidating Earth is a critical part of our strategy, killing the last Hydra, and also denying the Protectorate, the servants, and our enemies, effectively places to get Earth resources. The more we can consolidate, the better. Max takes the 50-50 and lands the shots while I'm busy looking at my mines on Mercury. It's almost as if he wants me to remind me that he's still there doing his thing. Fortunately, with more mines coming online, we're now positive across the board on everything except for cash. I am building more cash-producing structures. They're just going to take a while, so I might actually need a temporary source of additional funds. This is now my gating resource, that and volatiles. The metal situation is also significant. We're going to be spending a lot of them on a lot of things. So, cleaning that up, or increasing that rather, is probably a priority. But we've got some mines under construction that should improve things. The situation is beginning, at least, to stabilize. Just checking what's powered off. So for example, this mine here will produce an additional 377 volatiles in July. Australia can declare war on the Pacific States. We'll want to clean them up quickly, bring them into the United British Empire before it merges into the European Union. So we'll all join the war there, take Heed, and the Australian Army, 2nd Division of the Australian Army, which has a navy, can deploy to the Pacific States to supervise the voting there. 2nd Infantry Division from the United States can actually get there first, and between them and the arriving US Marines, who I will just cancel their operation, deploy 2 divisions of the American military plus a division of Anzacs should do the job. Although I guess it's not Anzacs, we haven't merged Australia and New Zealand yet, but we're working on it. Australia and New Zealand will be together again, and we'll all be this beautiful red colour until we all become this beautiful bluish colour, and then we'll see what happens from there. So Canada's control points are secure, which means we can move the Canadian military out of the way so it doesn't contest the movement on Toronto. Then the US military can move in and supervise a glorious unification of a North American state. The 13 Canadian MC has put me back within cap, so I'm no longer in danger there. But yeah, absorbing this was obviously, it was high time. It was a high priority. And then the United States should consider going south to Mexico next. And then we'll get a nice blue blob that basically encompasses a lot of Northern America. There is the little problem of the EU initiative, but we'll need to basically cut them out of the EU first. That will require a little bit more effort, unrest, public opinion, and then finally, Max to go in and stir some shit up. If we do all that, we should be able to break the alliance between the EU and Mexico, opening the door for both a European-British project and then a European-Eurasian project, or vice versa, and also American expansion into Mexico. In the meantime, it seems that the initiative is unfortunately spoiling the country rather than doing something useful like building mission control. So those 4 points are probably all that we're going to get, and it will damage, for example, the average standard of living, welfare, and whatnot in the United States. But the US is almost finished building all of its space lasers, which means we can at that point switch back to economy, welfare, and military spending, probably in an even split between them, in order to fix things up a little bit. I am already working on the United Kingdom, or will be, as soon as the space defenses finish. We're going to break out the economy and the welfare spending in order to fix things a bit. I don't want to expand the economy too much, though, until we've started combining countries, because it's more efficient to expand the economy once they're combined, and also because I really don't want to increase my CP cap usage at the moment. It's why, for example, India isn't allowed to spend on the economy. It would grow too quickly and use up all my CP cap. I don't want that. So at the moment, it's knowledge, mission control, and finishing space defenses. As you can see, India is already a bit of a space-based ping cushion. So if the mothership fleet decides to bombard us, for example, we're pretty safe. It probably won't decide to bombard us. It generally won't fire at provinces with space defense complexes. The side effect of this is that if we ever have to deal with a nuclear-armed protectorate or servant state, these make their provinces immune to nuclear attack, which is kind of cool. Meanwhile, in space, we've had a fleet turn up around Io, 2 escorting Sydney-class battleships. I know they use the battleship hull, but really these things act and behave and fight like battle cruisers, so I'm going to call them battle cruisers. And also the colony ship Botany. Now, a probe hasn't arrived at Io, but another ship with a mobile science lab should be on its way relatively soon. But for the moment, what we can do is found a platform in low Io orbit. So this is going to be the Io Fortress. And what we're probably going to do is we've got the MC. We don't actually have the MC. I can probably find the MC. What I want to do is immediately upgrade this thing to a ring core. It's 90 days to upgrade to an orbital, and it's 90 days to upgrade to a ring, so we're going to go straight and upgrade to a ring. Even if it puts up 1 over MC, I'll find the point. What this will do is enable us to build a fortified station in orbit of Io, and then start landing with a whole bunch of shipyards, and then start landing bases on the area once the scanning ships arrive. Battlefleet Jupiter, meanwhile, its job is going to be to keep this station alive. There is a local alien presence, but none of the Doom fleets are out this way, so for the moment, we should be okay. I don't know why the naming is showing up weird on the map, so let's fix that. See if that apparently still doesn't fix the problem. Anyway, that's our next conquest. This iron-rich regolith with all of its metal, its nobles, a couple of fissiles and volatiles. This is going to be our next conquest. Sure, it's radiation covered, but we don't really care about that anymore. There is an alien presence, if I zoom into Jupiter, around Ganymede. 2 fleets, Victor 38 with a corvette, and Victor 41. One is docked. I think they're both docked, actually. Technically, Stone Guardian isn't docked, so we could try and attack it and pinch it off, perhaps. That might be something Battlefleet Jupiter attempts. How long would it take to burn to Victor 38? Around Jupiter. Do I have to individually pick Ganymede? I think I'd have to burn to Ganymede in it's like 2 days. Okay, so I'm not going to do it immediately, but there's a chance we could come over here, snipe one of these two fleets without engaging the station. I'm not quite sure. And then fly back just to limit the local alien fleet presence. They do have a whole bunch of Doom fleets. In fact, one thing I've noticed is once you start shooting at the aliens, they do increase ship production pretty rapidly. They have more ships than when I started shooting at them, despite the fact that I've blown up far more ships in the last couple of months than I have all game. They're outbuilding me so far, which is one of the reasons why I think trimming the sort of culling the herd is so important if we're not going to be overwhelmed. Our economy is going to take a while before it's in the position to build very, very large battle fleets. That's the whole reason for the battle cruiser doctrine. I might, since HF01 and Battlefleet Terra, specifically Battlefleet HF1 is available, I might also go pick a raiding target for them and see if we can pinch off some alien ships elsewhere. This, for example, might be a good target. Victor 82 is in orbit of 92 Undina, but it isn't actually docked at the station. That's another fleet. So I'm thinking of flying HF01 out here and introducing myself. So if I then map out their locations, I could transfer to 92 Undina. Specifically, I could transfer to Victor 82. If I'm willing to get there in 10 weeks, 70 days, 8.7. Oh, I need to refuel. That could have been bad. I'll refuel HF01 and then I'll see if I can send them out on a raiding mission to pinch off these ships over here. Like I said, every kill we can make limits their ability to form together Doom fleets that will actually crush us. As for the Doom fleet itself, 10k fleet is back heading towards Earth. It'll be here in July. My plan is basically to distract it, run it out of DV, and send it refueling again. Worst case scenario, I'm going to have to engage it, but only around one of my battle stations in the hopes that the battle stations now have enough firepower that they can at least trim down that fleet. I'm not sure the aliens are willing to engage stations with 5 battle stations and good level technology on them, but we'll see. And to help stabilize the money problem, the old Epicurus station in low Earth orbit, it's not particularly well defended, so apologies if it does later get destroyed, but we've started turning this into a facility that Elon Musk would be proud of. We've got a couple of space resorts that generate influence and money, and then which I don't really like as much because they're less efficient on boost to money conversion than these things, the geriatrics facilities, which will turn 6 boost into 360 money instead of 250 and give you a little bit of science boost. The difference, of course, is a higher monthly support cost and more slots. So what we've got here is some luxury space resorts so that leisure consumers can come and stay on our fortified orbital battle stations, and if they happen to be old, well, high-paying elderly people can travel here in order to be in low or zero gravity. I imagine there are some medical conditions where being in zero gravity is probably a really pleasant experience. My only question is, how traumatic is the space launch to get them here? But, mine is not to reason why. The other amusing thing is that apparently there are people rich enough to pay for these slots around Earth or other planets if you have 50,000 people and no radiation. Even if Earth is a nuclear fireball, you can torch the Earth down to the point where its GDP is nothing, and there will still be billionaires willing to pay for slots in your geriatrics facilities and space resorts on your orbital stations. 3 more facilities will finish in October, and once they do, we will at least slightly be positive on money. We're getting there. I need to turn this seriously positive though, because I'm going to be spending a lot of cash on structures and things and maintaining ships, so there'll have to be more where this came from. We've got plenty of boost in the bank. We could afford to make another 5, 6, 7 geriatrics facilities around another station and still be positive. Worst comes worst, we can replace the space resorts with more of these geriatrics facilities and still be in pretty good shape. My only question is the station... Yes, the station is now actually actively consuming water and volatiles. So it doesn't actually need this shipyard, I don't think. So I might rekey this station a little bit in order to have another agricultural facility, because all these guests are consuming an awful lot of water and volatiles that it's just inefficient for them to be doing so. So leave this one with me. Victor 126, a surveillance destroyer, has arrived at Earth, so we are going to engage, outbid, and this time I think you'll forgive me if I auto-resolve it, because you've seen how I destroy those individual ships. There are going to be larger fleets later on, so let's just move through that. Battlefleet Terra will then have to quickly refuel. transfer space Adelaide, 4.7 hours, refuel, because they'll need to be ready when the Doom fleet arrives. In particular, what they'll need to do is not get caught or intercepted. That's the key. I don't want Battlefleet Terra to fight a head-on engagement with a much stronger enemy. It's just not practical. The other thing I need to do is design probably a next-generation marine transport when my resources stabilize, because I still have a lot of facility building to do. But once I do so, I want to build a next-generation marine transport. So let's just quickly check. If I look at ship classes and I look at the Super Emu, my question is whether this will allow me to replace the regular Marines with elite Marines. That is an entirely valid refit. So I could refit my existing Super Emus to have 15 Marine strength rather than 1. I think at this point we're busting out the space exoskeletons and the assault phases and coil guns, because the difference between 1 and 5 is pretty significant. Advanced Marine, Elite Marines, yeah, I like to imagine there's at least some cool technology, XCOM late game stuff coming out in these Elite Marines. Solar Auxilia indeed, at least, if not Thunder Warriors or Adeptus Astartes yet. We're not really there on the gene sequencing. Now, Americans, tell me that none of you have ever considered doing this. It's a bit of a meme, but the unification of America and Canada is actually going to be greatly beneficial for both countries. They are both full democracies. They both have advanced education standards. They're both wealthy per capita, some of the wealthiest per capita in the world. In fact, if anything, the Canadians are going to benefit because America has lower inequality, a higher standard of education. Although Canadians are like big on the groupthink. They are monolithic cohesion, 10 out of 10. Like they're marching in lockstep, so we'll see what happens once they join the United States. Okay, the MC situation is starting to improve as more command centers finish, and importantly, the servant stations that we took over in orbit start to deorbit and stop taking up MC cap, which is very, very welcome. That puts us in a slightly better position, although we're still strained on resources and we're still strained on money. I'll need to do some more construction in order to fix this, but leave it with me. Absorbing Canada and absorbing the Pacific States is in progress, so we will be back with that in just a moment. And so a new nation is born. As we wage war in the skies above in order to fend off alien interventions on our planet, the United States and Canada are now one, the United States of North America. The new nation has a population of 434 million. It's a full democracy, extremely wealthy, with low levels of inequality, although we can do better. The United States of North America is a military powerhouse. Unfortunately, we don't get to keep the Canadian divisions, but that's a low cost to pay for not downgrading the USA's military technology, which is what would have happened if we hadn't used the invasion method and instead done a peaceful unification. Mexico is obviously next on the cards after the European situation is handled, which will complete the United States of North America for the moment, Cuba obviously being another notable addition. We can improve the USNA. But, as I've said before, we've got a few things to do first. Space defences have just inherited the points from the Canadians, so they're about to complete one there, which will stick it somewhere valuable. I think we need to laser protect as much of the United States and North America as possible, and then we're going to need some welfare, some economy, and everything to get this all back under control. But all in all, a pretty good place to live, and a frighteningly productive country. Not to mention, still, the most militarily powerful on Earth, even if I haven't upgraded the tech level for a little while. I do want to push these to 7.0, just to see what the next art looks like, to be honest, and because it will be funny. This is one of the key technologies that makes me want to have a lot of money, because I want to build a heck of an antimatter industry, and antimatter mass production will get us there. I don't immediately want antimatter propulsion. I think I'm going to do mission to Saturn, white-collar automation, or administration algorithms instead. I think administration algorithms is quicker to get. I want transnational management. Yeah, a couple of these are useful. I want to pick up some of these computer and social technologies at this point, but they can be priority 2 rather than priority 3, and we'll pick up DNA repairs to priority 2. We want to get some projects completed. This is where a lot of our CP cap, actually I'll keep that like that, because this is where some of our CP expansion stuff is that we will need in order to accommodate the EU. But once we absorb Australia, we should be getting reasonably close to being able to handle having the EU under control. Once Super Colliders pops, which is the top-level antimatter production building, we'll research it, and then we'll produce a dedicated production station, probably somewhere out Mercury to begin with. We should be able to afford one, and if we can produce some antimatter, we'll start gearing ourselves up for options for ship designs and whatnot that can handle the really demanding mission sets. The mission sets that aren't just raiding in the asteroid belt or nearby, the ones that are outcompeting Hydra fleets all the way out in the Kuiper belt, or powering things that are so large that they need a heck of a lot of thrust, more than our Zeta Hellions can provide. Alright, Battlefleet Terra has its new Super Emu, which has the elite Marines on board, and our nanofabs are finished constructing at one of our bases, so we are now plus 939 per month on money, which is a much healthier place to be. I still want to get some more geriatrics facilities and things like that constructed to help produce even more cash and use more of this boost, but at least we're starting to stabilize. 1k volatiles, 731. This is not enough by any means. Like, this is not enough to outcompete the aliens, but we're able to maintain a fleet and still run positive at this point, so I can afford to make incremental improvements. Settling IO and also getting antimatter production going will help a lot. That's a beautiful fleet. So like I said, picking off small groups of alien ships is probably critical. Victor 38 is one of the fleets that was operating around Ganymede, but the one that wasn't actually at the station itself. Both fleets are willing to engage, prepare for a fight. We're looking at 2 destroyers mounting mag cannons and missiles, and a corvette mounting a mag cannon and a missile. I don't think... So the destroyers have point defense. That's not particularly a problem, but the key here is no one has lasers, and because no one has lasers, I can maneuver a little bit in my typical fashion at the start, which is to make sure we do not go to the merge. Try not to burn too much KPS, although we have a fair amount in reserve, and by a fair amount I mean literally hundreds. We will then rotate, and we should be okay. I won't pick priority targets, I'll let them engage at will. And again, I think we're mostly protected by the fact that we have 3 times as much combined point defense as they do, I think. I think that's the critical part. So we'll slow things down. Priority target this one, because that's where a lot of the incoming fire seems to be coming from. And do a nose point. And if anyone's facing incoming fire at an angle that's a little more hostile, what we'll do is we'll repoint that way. Does look like the nose phaser cannons are engaging. They're not going to do a huge amount of damage at this range, but they will do damage. Those are missiles that are incoming. And mag rounds as well. Okay, our mag cannons are doing their job. PD seems to be able to easily handle what's incoming. And the good thing about these heavier destroyers... oh, I see what's happened. Okay, we need to re-priority here, because this guy has just turned his back to the enemy. So let's hope PD's up to the task. I think it is, otherwise that could have been a trouble. Iron Shards is now so close that the phasers will start burning through the armor like it's nothing. But the mag cannons do the damage if you can get the hits. The lasers... the phasers, rather, are what are keeping us alive. Now, rather than risk engaging the station and the other fleet, what we're going to now do is just fly straight back to our station, content with the fact that we have reduced the alien fleet strength around Jupiter appropriately. We did take some damage to the botany, that's okay, but as soon as BF Jupiter becomes available again, we'll just fly back to our little base around Io. These sort of raiding actions are the only thing that are going to keep us above water. If we look at the alien fleets right now, I'm pretty sure, there you are, 98 ships, 35.7k fleet strength. That is more than they originally, that is more than when we started shooting. So like I said, our pruning is going to be necessary to stop this number. Other people I know who started the fight in 2041 say that once they start the fight, they give it a few years, this number can easily double. So, trimming, trimming, trimming. Look, there are stragglers and then there are stragglers. Victor 107 started flying to Earth at a time when humans were barely functional in space. It's done a 620 kps burn from the outer solar system. I think this, so you probably know how this is going to end when Battlefleet Terra gets involved. Now, our counselor team is probably the best in the world by a fair margin. No reason to have them retiring or nodding off because of old age. A 10-year life extension plus another 15 years later on, I think if we do Methuselah therapies, should keep them operating until the end of the game. These guys have been with us since the start. These men and women are heroes of humanity, and I'd like them to see it through to the end. Now, you'll remember we sent HF-01, which is the Melbourne, the Desolation, and the Super Emu, out to pick off a small alien fleet. Unfortunately, Victor 82 has been reinforced, and there's now 8 ships instead of the original 3. This is a little bit of a problem from an engagement perspective. What we should probably do at this stage is evade and fly home. If the aliens are going to reinforce this is just not enough firepower to deal with it. But, you know, fortune favours the brave, so let's go in and see what we can accomplish. Here the key is going to be using our delta V to our advantage. We're going to just break the axis of the fight completely and burn off in another direction and try and control the engagement. This should limit incoming threats to primarily missiles, and once we have outrun those missiles, we can think about turning around and re-engaging. As you can see, the PD is doing its job. We're getting longer engagement windows by virtue of flying away from the incoming fire. So what we're going to do is continue to accelerate. Oh shit, I've completely forgot about the Super Emu. Run, Super Emu, run! I think the Super Emu's dead. Yeah, the Super Emu is most definitely dead. But that's okay, the ship was going to get upgraded anyway. But at this point, I think the alien missile tubes are empty. They're down to mag rails, and during the pursuit phase, we can kite the bastards. So let's now slow down time. Just no one in their battle report talk about the fact that the commander focused on the major combatants and forgot that the Super Emu existed. But let's build up a little bit of maneuverability to starboard and continue engaging targets. At this range, our primary phasers actually penetrate their armor relatively well. Let's priority target the Brave Wind, because she's closest. And we're doing a sort of a drive-by at this point. I can't believe I forgot about the bloody Super Emu. All those Marines who died because I'm an idiot. But, you know, I'm not gonna cut it. I make mistakes, and that was a mistake. This is still potentially a battle which will go down in history. The great thing here is we have a laser-based firepower. We've got laser-based firepower, so we can, and we have a lot more KPS in reserve than they do. So we can really, not to quote Captain America or anything, but I can do this all week. To speed up time, they do have a velocity advantage, but we can match that. They are firing their mag rails still. PD should take care of that. Not sure why Desolation is lagging behind. She just hasn't built up as much velocity. They're being evasive, but we'll just keep burning. Let's switch priority target to the Sky Shield. She's close. And as you can see, at those distances, at those close ranges, UV phaser arrays, they don't care about your armor. They just don't. This is not a race you can win, alien scum. They are running, and the aliens have offered a draw. They've got the little green marker here saying the aliens want the battle to be over. I bet the aliens want the battle to be over. But I have velocity on my side. Well, I don't have velocity on my side. I have delta V, sustained thrust on my side, and I don't have to bring my radiators in. Battery capacity is at about 50%. That's okay. The reactor will run it up. We're just burning a little bit because we're, just keep up with the maximum acceleration in the burns. And I think we might actually manage this, which is ridiculous. We just don't want to let them get away because I want all those exotics, and I only get that if I destroy all of the ships. So Desolation is running up behind. Desolation should be able to take out Brave Wind. As the range closes, the phases should be able to do their job. I believe that the thing is, the destroyers that I'm engaging, they have more acceleration than me, but eventually they're going to run out of delta V to change their velocity, and I'm going to be able to catch the guys. No, I want to adjust that one. All right. Leave this with me for the pursuit stage, because this is going to be... I don't want to let these guys go. I want to catch them. I want to catch them. And I think if I burn logically, I will catch them eventually. My engines are just not good enough to actually make ground on them, unless I'm persistent. Alright, well, unfortunately, in the end, I was not able to make the intercept on the last two ships. In the end, I just don't think the combat acceleration on the Melbourne and the Desolation are quite high enough, and burning them out of all of their Delta V, they just had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds remaining. It would have been very, very difficult to do. So we're going to have to re-engage. It does mean we don't get the exotics for the 6 destroyed ships that we've destroyed. I believe they're working on changing how that works potentially. But we will be able to run down the remaining 2, provided that they don't dock with the station. So if we narrow this down to just HF01, unavailable for operations for a couple hours. I am annoyed that we lost the Super Emu just because I wasn't paying attention to the Super Emu. Commiserations to the crew of the Super Emu and their families and kin. They will be remembered. That was a misplay. So let's just speed this up to 450. HF01. Now, okay, so there's Victor 54 and Victor 53. Well, so for the honour of the Super Emu, we should complete the destruction of this fleet. May have gotten away initially, but we can catch it now and make it work. The Whispering Veil and the Swift Justice need to die. So here we go. This one should be simple. The Swift Justice and the Whispering Veil are horribly outgunned, so we'll just equalise our ships in terms of advancement. Priority target the Swift Justice and engage, I reckon. We will switch to prow on. No need for fancy maneuvers this time. There's not enough opposing forces, and we're just here for the kill. Phases are engaging. PD should come online in a moment. Looks like it's primarily the phaser PD doing the job, although occasionally the primary laser batteries you will see switch over to engaging missiles if the captain is not confident that the PD will make the job. Phasers are engaging, and at close distance it chews them up. Mission accomplished. So there we are. That's one of our first spaceborne casualties. And it's sad that it is the marine transport, the Super Emu, but we've cleared out a fleet of 8 alien ships that happen to be around this moon, which should hopefully... Let's just check their combat power. Yes, it's temporarily dipped them back to 90 ships. Victor 80 will be arriving at Earth shortly on 30 July, but we can call this a win. Those are 8 ships that could have linked up with the Doom fleet or could have operated elsewhere. Instead, the battle cruisers of HF1 have done their job. Melbourne and... is it Desolation? Melbourne and Desolation striking once more. Without any Marines, we don't have anything to do about the base on this station, and obviously going up against the actual orbital station, the resounding Concord station, would be suicide. The thing's got 4,000 combat power, and none of that is Delta V. It's all sheer firepower. So HF-01 is going to go home, and we'll need to build a replacement to the Super Emu to bring some Marines to hopefully deal with that alien station, although I dread to imagine what its defense score is. Like I said, I haven't played this part of the game before. So good job, HF-01. We will talk about the noble sacrifice of the Super Emu that died protecting the other vessels of the flotilla, and not at all because of the Admiral's incompetence. And the Doom fleet has arrived with 150 KPS to spare, but it needs a considerable amount of that to get home. And so we've got a couple of things to deal with this. The first is there is currently an automated distraction station in extreme orbit. Hopefully they go eat it. Once they do, I'm considering sending battlefleet Terra to engage and then run away, try and run down this DV total. 275 DV seems like a huge amount, and it is at the start of the game if all you're doing is orbital defense. But if you need enough in the tank to be able to get home to refuel, well, you have less available for combat operations, and we're going to exploit that to the hilt. And as expected, the automated platform has attracted the aliens' attention. It is, after all, a soft and squishy target that's relatively easy to take out, so that's where they'll go first. But destroying it and its colleagues in Earth orbit that are now fully automated, so we're no longer sacrificing human crew to the alien gods, should start to burn down their DV. At the right point, I'm going to send in Battlefleet Terra to try and draw more. The whole point here is not to engage the fleet. It's to empty the fuel tanks. And it's cheesy, but if it's cheesy and it works, well, it's cheesy and it works. I was wondering why Victor 80 was not going for our next station. Instead, it turns out that after it flies to extreme Earth orbit, with the low fuel efficiency of the motherships, it sees itself dangerously low on fuel and decides to flow back to Vesta, which it will get to at 7 January, in order to refuel. This is the essential mothership problem. They can come to Earth orbit, accomplish maybe a thing, and then they have to go refuel unless they've got a refueling base nice and close. And right now, none of their refueling bases are actually in good range. It's going to take a pretty serious burn to get there at any reasonable amount of time. Now, if an alien base is in a better relative orbital position, relative to Earth, then we're in much more trouble. The right orbital positioning might reduce the burn cost down to a tiny fraction of what it currently is, in which case we might have to fight. But I think we can juggle them for a while. This has brought us until at least the middle of 2039, or until the next Doom fleet, or until the aliens found a base in a better position in the asteroid belt. But for the moment, Victor 80 has taken the bait and is flying home. Fuel efficiency, guys, miles to the gallon. Now, the Super Collider research has popped up, so I've deprioritized Inertial Confinement Terra 3 and maximized Super Collider. This is a good thing. Once we've got it, then we can start talking seriously about antimatter production around Mercury. We've got a little bit of an MC buffer right now, so even if I upgrade some more mines, we should be in good shape. The other thing I have to do is I have to go sell some orcs to get just a little bit more cash. This is about to go positive. We are days away from producing a bunch of cash stations, but I need just a little bit more to avoid ever going negative, so selling organizations it is. Also, side note, after someone detects your spies, and if you don't think it's because you have someone turned, my advice is convert anyone with high investigation if you can as to be your spy, and then if there's anyone else with high investigation on the roster, take them out. So they had another character who had like 12 or 13 investigation, who I couldn't turn because you can only turn one person, so Max decided to pay them a visit. Everyone walks along this same abandoned bridge. It's quite interesting so far as choices go. Either way, this should limit the chance that they find Mr. Kung Pin Man here. Okay, so let's talk to Miss Ioade as we get towards the end of this episode. We've already talked about the fact the resistance space economy is in a bit of a shambles, mostly because they're way over their MC limit, and we took some of their MC away from them, and the initiative took Mexico away from them. So they are bleeding stations and whatnot at the moment, but they've got a good body of some space resources. There's room for them to potentially recover, and interestingly enough, I went and counted up their fleets. They've got more than 1,000 combat power worth of vessels up there. It's just that the economy can't support it. So what we're going to do is try and make sure that we're on good terms with them, despite the fact that we kind of took some stuff away from them. I'm thinking of selling them 2,000 water. That'll help. Then I'm thinking about some key projects. So, for example, they should have laser engines for their laser weapons. That'll reduce them putting Marines on ships that don't need them. We'll give them improved heavy coil gun batteries as an alternative weapon option. The heavy UV phaser cannon is excellent. They don't have the money for cyborging. Anyway, this is a good amount of stuff. In return, I want 4,340 base metals. I want 713 nobles. I want 144 fissile materials. They're running positive on volatiles, but I'll take those. Generous, I accept, she says. Okay, you need a little bit of boost to stabilize your economy, so I'll give you 80 of that. Is there anything else that I want from you? I think from this, it means that I don't need to give them the laser engines or the coil guns. I can come back later. Is this generous even with... Yeah, this is generous just with the water, because she realizes that this is going to solve her economic problems. So that's generous. We can come back and give her the technology later and make sure she's still happy. This gives us a little bit of a boost in terms of giving us a couple of months worth of income in this category in particular, and 1 month worth of fissile income, and hopefully stabilizes her situation a little bit. So there we are, completed trades there. Oh great, the IO Fortress core is finished. Now this is going to be a heck of a construction project, because this needs to be able to endure basically anything. This is the situation, the place from which we do not want to be thrown back in the Jupiter system. So what I'm going to build here probably takes 360 days to build the heavy reactors and 180 to build the normal ones. How long does it take to build battle stations? 180. So I'm thinking what I might actually do is overbuild it by using fusion reactors initially, so that the whole station can be done in 180 days, because I'm pretty sure these construct even faster, 90. Spaceworks are in 180. Okay, I'm starting to have ideas. If we put a shipyard here, I get the construction module isn't quite finished. That finishes later on. How much power do you produce? 20. How much power do you take? 40. Okay, that won't work. I want two shipyards to be done in 90 days. I want one fission reactor that will be done in 90 days. Yes, we'll upgrade this station later. I want 4 conventional fusion reactor farms. Actually, I may even want 5. I want an agriculture complex. I want 3 battle stations. And that's probably the core service offering. This is enough power to run 3 battle stations, the agricultural complex. We may even build a second agricultural complex, just to make sure that as we expand the station that we're fine. 1 manufacturing complex, get it started, but it will provide a construction bonus here in the future, just in terms of speeding stuff up. And now we should be in a pretty good place. We could put another battle station on it, but I don't really see the point. So instead, what I'm going to do is start, because we're going to want these eventually. I'll start these heavy fusion reactor farms, because those can eventually replace these fusion reactor farms out here. I don't think that endangers any part of our economy particularly heavily, and once these finish in 6 months' time, we'll be in a pretty good place in terms of having a fortified position here. You're going to need a Doom fleet to break the 3 battle stations, and if they bring a Doom fleet, well, they bring a Doom fleet. By the time they do, we should have surface outposts with the even more formidable service to offer defenses in place. I just want to prove that Max is in fact fallible. That's a 98 on a 96. I'm going to have him repeat just to remove the stain of that particular failure. He wasn't killing anyone important, but he will get them. But you know, even Max is not perfect. Cool. I just want to be a little more popular in Eurasia. India is almost back to 0, and we finished the super collider. Fantastic. I'm running through a lot of things I want to do. I want to wind up this episode, but yeah, I was going to unify the UK and Australia, but I guess we're just doing antimatter now. Give me a second. I'll show you what antimatter looks like. So this is a super collider. This thing generates, what does it cost? It creates 0.1 antimatter per month in exchange for 750 power, 32 water, 32 volatiles, 20 base metal, 20 nobles, and 10 fissile materials. Which means this thing, if we produce even 5 of them, is going to eat an awful lot of our income, and I want to do more than that. So the only way to power these bloody things realistically is to put them on Mercury. But antimatter, well, let's just say it's going to pay for that monthly support cost many times over, so let's get constructing. We're going to need a shit ton of power. That is a decent array of power. Then we're going to need a pair of battle stations defending it. Mercury is not under the most threat possible, so it's relatively safe. Pair of agricultural complexes may even not be enough, so we will leave a slot open for a third if it's required. And then, how many super colliders can we fit? Current under modules will not power it. Okay, so let's add another one. Solar farm, super collider. So this will now take 50 fissile material a month, 100 of these, yeah, 100 of these. Okay, so it's going to damage our incomes a bit, but we're now up to 0.5 antimatter per month. Let's see if we can build another one. I think at this point we had a third agricultural complex, probably here. Another solar farm, and another super collider. So this place here, Annihilation Station, is going to be incredibly expensive to upkeep, but you can sell antimatter for 15,000 per unit. So if we're producing half a unit per month, well, we should be able to sell some of it and use the rest and still pay for the station overall. That said, this place is bloody expensive to run, and I should build more aged care facilities in Earth orbit, something which I will do once I've completed a few more things. Also, Max doesn't miss twice. I'm not going to highlight Titans right now, but we've done the technology. Exodus is very excited about this for obvious reasons, but we're not going to design one now. Save that in mind for a future episode when we start talking about Titans and siege vessels. And so we run our last run. We're not going to do Titans right now. Finishing the episode, hopefully, with a special moment. No, not the initiative using the European military to invade everyone. No, not us turning another informant. That is always good, though. We might need to pick that up, because right now we're grabbing every management increasing technology we can, but in a moment we'll have every CP cap increasing one possible. Space Adelaide. Okay, so this is our fleet that was at Mars that is coming to join one of our battle fleets, so they're each going to have 3 battleships. I figure having a separate Mars battle fleet's probably not worth it at the moment, because I'm about to have to go out and hunt more alien vessels in order to keep them from becoming overwhelming in number. So I'm going to pick a few more forces to go and pinch off. There's civilian fusion reactors, 50% less carbon dioxide, and we already got one of those technologies, and 25% less methane. So we're basically solving global warming. I love it. We'll pick up this one, Algorithmic Economic Management, 15 November. So this, a round of management research and a round of transnational management between it, should give us enough space in the cap, combined with a few other actions, to eat the EU, which is really the goal here. We've been talking about it for so long. Foxtrot 71 has arrived in low IO orbit. Fantastic. So let's just survey the planet. That'll take 28 days and enable us to start putting bases down on the surface. This is a science ship. It's a very heavily armed science ship. It's the Australia Post class. It's nice and fast, not particularly heavily armoured, but it does have an array of PD in case it ever gets caught in a fight.
We'll be ready for new orders soon.
Mission complete.
And then finally, Unification. Ignore the name, it was Australia, it will always be Australia. The UK and Australia have unified into a single nation. There we are, it's beautiful. A population of 196.8 million. Full democracy, information age. This is all pretty good. We do need to fix the high inequality and the GDP per capita, but the space defences are about to finish. automatically as soon as that tick goes through. There we are. So Sydney, which is this region in Terra Invicta, now has its own orbital defences, and I think for a moment we can just fix the welfare problem first. The nation is going to be absorbed, but I just want to get it below high before we do. Plus, this will now pull a whole bunch of CO2 out of the atmosphere, which is kind of cool. So there we are. I think that's Max. Max, I was going to end the episode by saying how cool it was that Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Timor-Leste are now united with the United Kingdom, but no, you had to go and make it all about you. He did, in fact, destroy an alien base in Central Africa, the CAR. We used to have to worry about this causing retribution, but now the aliens hate our guts anyway, so we don't care. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It involved I think, a pretty good space victory against a fleet of 8 alien ships, some good raiding. We practiced our tactic of distracting the mothership fleet, which was good. We've unified the British side of the equation, and we've started to buy ourselves some CP caps so that next episode, the Earth objective is going to be to take the European Union and to federate it with the United Kingdom, and potentially also federate it with the Eurasian Union, so really start consolidating our presence on Earth. At the same time in space, it's about antimatter production. It's about 2 or 3 more battlecruiser actions, the colonization of Io, and maybe some more besides. I'm actually considering maybe a marine assault action against some alien bases. We will see. I hope you enjoy. See you again soon.